For those of you who have never practiced with me before, one of the things that I endeavor to do is to make Buddhism relatable and accessible, particularly how it has informed my life, my practice, and the way that I work with it and think about it. And so I have reimagined the Four Noble Truths and the Noble Eightfold Path using different language. So, for instance, in the traditional Buddhist sense, the first noble truth is that there's suffering. And that is often pretty heavy handed suffering. Like, I'm not suffering, I'm fine. Nobody's hacking me to shreds or anything like that. But really, what it means is there's discomfort. We're challenged, we're disappointed, we're frustrated, we're confused. And there are reasons for that. There are conditions that cause us to be disoriented and upset. That's the second noble truth in Buddhism. The third noble truth in Buddhism is that there's an end to that. There's a way to stop that. And for me, that is called harmony. There's a way to bring harmony to our lives. And the way to do that is to practice. And in Buddhism, that's called the Noble Eightfold Path. And on many days of our practice, we explore that. But for today, on Wednesdays, we're going to take a different approach to the foundations of this practice using the words of Shantideva and this book, Guide to the Bodhisattva's Way of Life. And Shantideva was an 8th century monk who was living in India and who took the Buddhist teachings to heart and really wanted to create and craft a way of life that would bring himself peace and also everybody that he interacted with. So he wanted to be someone where you got into his presence and something about you felt different. Just being in his presence stirred something within you that called to your aspirations. I want to be a better person. I want to stop the habit energy that is ruining my life. We're here in a recovery meeting because most of us have habit energy related to substances, drugs and alcohol specifically, that are ruining our lives. And that can be a little heavy-handed. It's ruining my life. That can be a pretty stark thing to say, but for a lot of people it's true. And how that translates, how that manifests in our lives is it negatively impacts our relationships to the people that we love the most. It negatively impacts our capacity to work and maintain a job. It negatively impacts our way of living independently. It can negatively impact our overall health. And so these Buddhist practices are a way of looking at that. What am I doing so that I can improve my life? I can improve my connections, my relationships, my health, my capacity. And so today we're going to listen to Shantideva's perspective on how to do just that. So I'm going to read, this reads a little bit like a very long poem with lots and lots of different verses. And so I'm just going to read a couple of verses today. But what I'd like to do first is to invite us as a community to come into the practice of meditation. And meditation is simply present time awareness, being in your body in this moment here, and taking a look at the mind. So in order to be able to explore the mind, which is what we're going to be doing with Shantideva's words, because this particular chapter is called guarding alertness. And what he's talking about is the alertness, the brightness, the clarity of your mind. And to do that, the mind needs a stable, solid source. And that stable, solid source is a companion you have every day, and that is the body. So for your body practice today, I invite you to find a posture that feels at ease, and that could mean lying down. On the journey of recovery, we don't often give the body enough time to rest. And so take a moment to find a comfortable place to rest. And if you fall asleep, invite that to be perfect. Let that be your meditation. And even if my voice trails off into the netherworld of rest, invite that to be perfect. The wisdom of what I'm going to share will get into your consciousness one way or the other. And breathe. If you've decided to take a more active and noble posture by sitting nice and tall, turn an inward gaze and bring your gaze to your belly, and make sure your belly is nice and soft. But on the back side of your belly is the lower back, connected to that whole spine, up and down your back. And make sure that's nice and straight, strong back, soft front. Roll your shoulders up and back so that your heart is elevated and open. Bring your attention to breathing. Breathing in, watching the belly rise. Breathing out, observing how the belly descends and contracts. Breathing in, belly expands and rises. Breathing out, belly deflates and contracts. Breathing in, breathing out. Take a moment to notice your own body breathing. It's so simple, yet it is so profound. And by doing this very simple breathing exercise, friends, we are truly anchoring the body, grounding the body, allowing it to be a very solid source present right here. And the reason why that's so important is because the mind can be wild. The mind, your mind, could be in a completely different moment than the one that's happening right now. Your mind might be remembering something that happened yesterday or earlier this morning or last week or 2 years ago. Or maybe you're future tripping about what's going to happen later today or tomorrow. And if that is happening, if you're noticing that about your mind, just smile at your awareness, because this is so very human. Our minds are so rarely in the moment with the body. And so we have to practice harmonizing the body and the mind to just be here. What I would encourage you to do is, if you have an intrusive thought, just acknowledge it. I see you, thought. But right now, in Soul Center, I'm listening to a very gentle whirring of the fan. That's what's happening for me right now. In this moment right now, I'm thinking about all the people here in Soul Center and online who have prioritized time to be here today. And what a privilege it is to share this space. I'm thinking about, right now I'm thinking about the necklaces I'm wearing. Both were given by Luma to me, and I wear them with such joy. I'm thinking about the glasses on top of my head and how weird I am that I have them on my head and not on my nose, where I could actually use my glasses and see better. And I'm just smiling at the quirky nature of me. That's what's happening for me right now. There are many meditations out there that try to encourage no thinking, no thought. And that is one way to meditate. Today, we are inviting the mind to be with the body in this moment. And we're here to get to know the mind in a friendly, curious way. So when you notice that your mind is wandering to something else, smile at the fact that you notice the mind wandering. That's what the mind does. And just bring your mind back to your body and breathe. And if you have to do that 100 times in this meditation, invite that to be perfect as your meditation today. And meet yourself where you are with joy and warm regard. That's the practice. I'd like to read 2 stanzas today from Shantideva as a way of supporting your practice. And I just want to share with you how marvelous it is that we are reading something so ancient, and yet it is so relevant today. More than 1,000 years later, Shantideva writes, "Even those who wish to find happiness and avoid suffering will wander without meaning or purpose if they do not practice training the mind, the supreme principle Dharma." Dharma are the wisdom teachings of the Buddha. Training the mind, working with the mind, being with the mind is a principle of Dharma, supreme principle of this practice. Therefore, he says, I will guard my mind well and protect it from what is inappropriate. Without the discipline of guarding the mind, what is the use of many other disciplines? Friends, I'd like to offer you this perspective as I think about Shantadeva's words of guarding and protecting my mind. I have a mind that can think and say some really vicious stuff toward myself. Julia, you are so stupid. I can't believe you did that. I can't believe you said that. I can't believe you thought that. Julia, you are so slow. What's the matter with you? Why do you got to take so much time to do everything? Julia, here's one of my favorite ones. Julia, ugh, it's such a burden to work with you. Yikes, friends, would you look at that? That shit is in my head, droning regularly. Wah, 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 wah. And by looking at me, as adorable as I am, you probably wouldn't know that. That's why I'm sharing that with you. Vicious, mean-spirited voices live in my head, telling me things, having me think things. And they have been so repetitive that I began to believe it. Julia, you are so stupid. I believed that for a long time. As I was learning to protect my mind, I remember being a little misguided because I used to think that protecting myself meant I've got to keep those intrusive negative thoughts as far away from me as possible. Go away. You're not getting in here. Only the good stuff's getting in. But those voices were so persistent and pernicious, they always found a way in anyway. Despite all of my effort, despite all of my positive self-talk, those voices were getting in. They were there. They were like a permanent smell I couldn't get rid of. And it wasn't until I started to change my approach to my own mind that things started to really shift. What I did was I started to change my relationship to those mean-spirited thoughts, and that changed everything. Because I realized that when I was protecting myself or guarding myself, I was actually fighting with myself. I was going to war with those negative voices. And I was trying to cut off pieces of myself. And I was fragmenting and fracturing myself. And I was not happy. And so it was only when I began to really realize, oh, that voice is simply a part of me. It's a part of my legacy, my parents, my grandparents, their experiences since beginningless time all live in me. Those voices are what make me a whole human being. And so when that voice came up, Julia, God, you're so stupid. I began responding to it with things like, wow, would you look at that? I would say to that voice, you know, I hear you. I hear that. And it's true. I can do some stupid shit. Yep. And guess what? It's not the whole truth of me, because I'm also really smart. So I hear you, voice. I hear you, thought. You're a part of me, but I'm going to turn down the volume and let some other thoughts come in. Julia, I really like how you sewed doll clothes recently, because I love dolls, friends, and I make dolls. And so I sewed dolly clothes, and they brought me so much joy. I can hardly contain myself. Julia, I really appreciate how you save bugs from the swimming pool, even the ones that creep you out the most. That's so kind. Thank you for doing that. So, friends, I guard my mind by being with my mind. And I guard my mind by not letting those negative voices, which are simply a part of me, to rule the day. They get to have a presence, but they don't get to govern me anymore. So I guard and protect myself now by reminding myself of the goodness that is within me too, because I'm both sweet and sour, bright and dull, smart and stupid, creative and lazy. I'm all of those things and more. And my guess is you are too. And together, this is the practice of stepping into a precious human life. So let's take a moment of silence and just allow that to settle in. And invite yourself to be the wise guardian of your mind, so that you can hold both the negative and the positive as a neutral observer, a neutral, open protector. Breathing in, breathing out. welcome. Alrighty, friends, let's go ahead and end our practice with a dedication of merit. Kind of bringing back our awareness to the wisdom of Shantideva. One of my favorite things he wrote has become a pretty famous dedication of merit. And one of the things that you can do, and this is something that Pema Chodron likes to teach about, likes to suggest, is if ever you're in a pickle, if you're in a really difficult spot, just imagine bright light like the sun. And imagine that light showering down on you, meeting you at every conceivable angle, entering you from every pore in your body. You are just filled with light. And allow it then to move through your body and maybe concentrate at the level of the heart. And may that concentration be warm and tender and reassuring. And just allow it to be there for a minute. Then what Shantideva encourages, and Pema does too, is we're not here to keep this for ourselves, any of it. Our brightness, our passions, our creativity, our tears, our misgivings, all of it can come together in this light and radiate out in really positive ways, in ways of recognition, in ways of connection, resonance, beauty. Shantideva says, for as long as suffering exists, for as long as pain exists in the world, may I too remain to help dispel the misery of the world. It's a tall order. And so we begin with ourselves to just offer ourselves a little bit more friendliness, a little more patience and leniency, a little more tender care and love. And by extension, that will reach out into the world, a world so desperate to have it. Thank you so much for your practice here today, friends. We'll see you next time. Namaste.